Hi guys, welcome to the fifth devlog of the series. Not much was done this time around visually, unfortunately, apart from, as you can see, the weather in the background, which I'll talk about soon. It's been quite a busy week for me recently with work and so on, but I did get a lot done in the back end, which I'll be discussing today. So items have been refactored in the back end. I've changed the way they work to suit the similar way that I did for the entities. If you go back to, you can watch the entity component system to sort of a deeper explanation of how it works, but this is sort of the same way where I have one single item, and within the item I have different types of that item. So for now I just have consumables and tools. I'm probably obviously going to expand that to sort of clothes and whatever types I want. I've got a sort of list of them. I still need to filter them out. This really allows me to remove the inheritance hierarchy, which can get very complicated, especially with lots of item types, and within the item types I have lots of item types within that. It's just going to go extremely deep, to be honest. I have changed the way this works, and I've got sort of item definition. So I have consumable. So if an item is a consumable, I add in the consumable sort of area where this will, the JSON, because this is a JSON file, this will load into the item pojo, which I have, and it will load this section in as a consumable item, and it will load in all of these effects for it, essentially. So if you go down, I have an orange, which is also a consumable. It's just a consumable, so it will load in the item hunger and thirst and so on. And thirdly, I have an axe. So this is a tool. It's obviously not consumable, you can't eat it, so I don't have a consumable section for it, but I have a tool section for it. And what this will do is this will load it into this tool section, this tool class, sorry, and it will have base damage, attack damage, so everything varies. I'm obviously going to add and remove sort of effects for this, and maybe lasting effects, so on any enemy it touches, but that is essentially how it works. This item materials right here is what is needed to create that that item if it's craftable. Obviously an apple won't be craftable, you can gain it from underneath trees and so on. However, an axe will be craftable because you'll need wood, some metal, I'm assuming. Just, it really depends what materials I add in. But that is essentially the entire process I've done. I've just added in a component system for items. So the way I was doing it was I would have a array list for each of the directions the player would move in for the sprite sheet. So this section here would be each of the sprites for the player moving up, walking up, then it walking right, which will be on the third row, then walking down and walking left. So I would have them all here, then I would put them in a hash map, obviously depending on which animation I wanted to run, and I would actually put the sprite sheet, which is the path of the sprite sheet, plus the points, the grid points on the sprite sheet, and it would load that up and it would just run it based on whichever one I'd call. So as you can see, I've extracted that from the hard-coded file, so it's no longer hard-coded as code, it's within a data file. I bring that in as a JSON file, hold all that data, I know all the animation data in the file, and it just calls whichever one is needed at that specific time. So I've got idle when it's walking, when it's cutting wood, and I think I may need to change the way I do this switch case, because this is going to get really big really fast if I have different types of animations for different types of things. So I have added in basic usage for tools. So as you can see, when you press space, I'm using an animation. That entity touched wasn't actually now, that was because he interacted with the tree. So if I press space, I'm sort of using an item. So this shouldn't be happening now because I actually haven't got a item equipped. If I equip this item here, it is now technically using this item. So if I give you a quick demonstration, I'm at this tree. As you can see, once I press space, I'm using this item on this tree. So if I use space here, I'm using the item on NPC. However, if I de-equip this, or if I just move this back, I can scroll through, so now I'm on quick slot selected 1. It doesn't actually visually show, but it does work. As I showed previously, I will be adding in that because it gets, when testing, it gets quite annoying. But if I press space, it's not actually using it on the tree. If I go back 1, can actually use the item on the tree. So he's using the axe on the tree. If I go down one, not using anything, up one, he's now using it on the tree. So that's essentially the item usage using sort of basic wood cutting and so on. It's in the very framework stages. I did this when it was much easier to make after I refactored the items, which is why I wanted to do that first. It helped me sort of expand a lot of other things. Now I can now begin to use items properly and do things with other items. So another thing that we have improved is we have tooltips here within the inventory screen, or the backpack, or whatever you want to call it, and we now have tooltips for the quick UI slot, which we never had before, which was just a small addition that I added in. Finally, I would like to talk about the weather. So I have actually created sort of snow and rain within the game. The snow is obviously still a work in progress. This is the first time I'm actually working with particles. This is just in this area of the map. It's in the bottom left area. As you can see, there's no snow anywhere else. This will change. So the snow will happen in big sort of areas, sort of like biomes. So in one large area of the map, there will be snow. In another large area of the map, it will just be clear. Another large area of the map, it might be raining, and so on. I have got a test here where I have done rain. This is the rain. I really don't exactly like the rain. I might slow it down. I'll have a sort of splash effect when the particle gets destroyed, so as if it's hitting the floor, and so on. And so if I press U again, we change back to snow. So this is sort of changing the weather. I've got sort of depth between the snow, so we've got really far ones, we've got the medium ones, we've got the very close ones, so that occasionally come across the screen. So yeah, that's sort of the weather that's been added. It's very basic. I will be adding more sort of wind effects, maybe blowing some leaf particles or dust particles, so on throughout the game when it's calm. So yeah, that's all I've got for this week. Next week I will be focusing on basic animal stuff, which I did say I was going to be focusing on last time, but I did get sort of the item refactoring needs to be get out of the way, so I can add in sort of new items, which I've tried to do at the moment. So that's pretty handy. So I just kind of got it out of the way, so I don't have to focus that again. But I will be focusing on animal sort of AI, possibly having animal companions, which is going to come later on. Just sort of slowly expanding the animals. Yes, my player is very fast because I really did not want to slowly walk when I wanted to test some things. But this won't be the final speed of the player. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.